The Gemara in Brachas tells us, based on the pasuk Baruch Hashem Yom Yom, that basically we thank God every day, Yom Yom. So the Gemara makes a drasha that on every Shabbat, every Yantiv, one has an obligation to mention Ein HaMa'orah. You have to mention YALEH-V-YAVO, Ritzei. You have to mention Shabbos on Shabbos about Shabbos, Yantiv about Yantiv, Rosh Chodesh about Rosh Chodesh. So we know in benching and in davening we mention YALEH-V-YAVO. So what is the halacha on Rosh Chodesh if one forgets to say YALEH-V-YAVO in Shmon Esrei? You daven Shmon Esrei and you forget to say YALEH-V-YAVO. So it depends what tefillah we're talking about. So the Gemara tells us, let's start with the nighttime. If you get to say YALEH-V-YAVO tonight, even though it's a 2-day Rosh Chodesh, there's no difference. By Yantif, the halach is you have to go back. But on Rosh Chodesh, the Gemara says, since based in Ein Makayish Chodesh Balayla, that since based in didn't meet at night, so therefore, even if you forget YALEH-V-YAVO, you don't go back. So tonight, last night, if you forgot YALEH-V-YAVO, keep on going. You never repeat Shmona Esrei if you forget YALEH-V-YAVO at night. What about Shacharis and Mincha? So Shacharis and Mincha, so the simple pshat is if you forget Shacharis and Mincha, you have to go back. If you daven Shacharis and left out YALEH-V-YAVO, if you daven Mincha left out YALEH-V-YAVO, you have to repeat Shmona Esrei. So the question is, are there any scenarios where if you forget YALEH-V-YAVO during the day, you wouldn't have to go back? So the Gemara tells us, it asks the following question. This question will be Nogeya tomorrow night. So let's say you daven Mincha tomorrow, it's still Rosh Chodesh, and by Ma'ariv Rosh Chodesh is over. So a person daven Mincha, left out YALEH-V-YAVO in Mincha, so the halach is you have to daven another Shmon Esrei if you forget, right? However, so what's going to happen tonight? If you didn't daven Mincha, if you didn't say YALEH-V-YAVO Mincha, you daven 2 Shmon Esreis at night tonight, and you'd say YALEH-V-YAVO in both. What happens if you forget YALEH-V-YAVO and Mincha tomorrow night? So what do you do? So you have to daven a second Shmon Esrei, but do you have to mention? In other words, what do you do? How does it work? So because Rosh Chodesh is over, so we only mention YALEH-V-YAVO on Rosh Chodesh. So you can't mention in Ma'ariv YALEH-V-YAVO. So the question is, do I have to daven 2 Shmon Esreis tomorrow night? I have to daven Ma'ariv because it's Ma'ariv, but then I miss Mincha, so do I have to say another Shmon Esrei? In other words, the question is, why do you have to go back? When you forget YALEH-V-YAVO in Mincha or Shachris, why do you have to go back? Is it like I didn't daven at all? Is it like I didn't daven Mincha, period? A Shmon Esrei without YALEH-V-YAVO is nothing. You just wasted your time, even worse. All the blessings and mains. Oh no, I got credit for davening. I'm yotzei my mitzvah. However, there's a special mitzvah on Rosh Chodesh. I have to mention YALEH-V-YAVO. And the rabbi said you can't just say YALEH-V-YAVO in a vacuum, in a paragraph. You got to say it in the context of Shmon Esrei. That's why I have to be. What's the difference? Either way, what's the difference? Why I have to repeat anyway? What's the difference? Is because I didn't daven Mincha at all, or it's I got credit for Mincha, but I have to daven over again because I left out YALEH-V-YAVO. The difference would be tomorrow night, because if you view a YALEH-V-YAVO Shmon Esrei without YALEH-V-YAVO as a nothing, that means I didn't daven Mincha. So everyone agrees if I didn't daven, there's no argument. If I didn't daven Mincha tomorrow night, period, and that comes Ma'ariv, I have to daven 2 Shmon Esreis. That's not on the table. Everyone agrees to that. So the question is, if I daven Mincha, but I left out YALEH-V-YAVO, would I have to go back? So it would depend on this question. If davening Mincha without YALEH-V-YAVO is a nothing, then I have to daven 2 Ma'arivs. But if I already got credit for davening, the only thing I need to repeat the Shmon Esrei is to get credit for YALEH-V-YAVO. That's not happening anyway because I can't do YALEH-V-YAVO. So that's machlokas in the Baalei Tosfos on the Chavav Amud Beis, the beginning of the fourth parak, the top Tosfos. So how do we pass it? It's a machlokas in Tosfos what to do. So it's really a sveika the dina to doubt what to do. So the Mishnah Berurah says to do the following: if you daven mincha and left out YALEH-V-YAVO, so you should daven 2 Shemona Esreis on tomorrow night. But you should have the following stipulation in mind. If the halacha is that I have to daven, so I'm davening because I have to. But if the halacha is I don't have to daven, so let it be a tefillas nadav, let it be a free will offering. Like you could bring karbanos, volunteer, let it count as an extra tefillah. Even though normally we don't do extra tefillas, but since we have no choice here because it's a safek halacha, so therefore we go ahead and we daven 2 Shemona Esreis, but only out of doubt we're not sure who we're passing like. So the Mishnah Berurah says to make the Tanai, if the halacha is that I have to, the second one counts as a tashlumin. If I don't have to, let it be a free will or a free will tzvila. So that'd be the first practical difference. Is do I have to repeat 2 Shemona Esreis tomorrow night? Well, halacha there's no difference because we go with strict. But here's another practical. This question I get all the time. This wasn't Sean's question. I get this question. So let's say you're davening shacharis and you forgot YALEH-V-YAVO. So people come to me. So what should I do? I forgot YALEH-V-YAVO in shacharis. So if your simple reading of the Gemara in Shulchan Aruch is you have to repeat. So I tell them, speak to me after Musaf and I'll answer you. So how does that help? So as follows. So it goes like this. There's a Magen Avram. The Magen Avram writes that if a person daven shacharis without YALEH-V-YAVO, and then he didn't realize he forgot, and then he daven Hallel Musaf. Hallel is not relevant, but he daven Hallel Musaf. And then he remembers, so the Magen Avram says you don't have to go back. Even though you forgot YALEH-V-YAVO and shacharis, but if you remember after you already daven Musaf, the Magen Avram says, that's it, you're okay. So the question is, what's the connection? What does davening Musaf have to do with me forgetting YALEH-V-YAVO and shacharis? So which opinion is he working with? How do we view a Shemona Esrei without YALEH-V-YAVO? Is it a nothing, or is it a tefillah except you have to go back? Which opinion is the Magen Avram working with?
Still tefillah. Yeah,
it's still a tefillah because it doesn't help. If I didn't daven, if I left out shacharis, no one would say, and I daven Musaf first, no one would say I don't have to daven shacharis anymore, because you already got credit for tefillah. What do you need? This is the special mention of Rosh Chodesh, and now you're getting anyway. The whole Musaf is about Rosh Chodesh. Therefore, the Magen Avram says, post facto, but he says if you remember right away, you should repeat it. But if you remember after Musaf, then you don't have to. Comes along with Selevan and says no. He says, don't repeat it, even if you remember before. Just daven Musaf and you fulfill your mitzvah in Musaf. Because why? Because we don't need the Ramah to tell us. We all know from our own davening. The Ramah writes that really, if you don't have kavanah for the first bracha, so you're not Yotze Shemona Esrei. So what would happen is that we'd be davening all day because we'd keep on going back because we're never going to have the right kavanah. So therefore, what can we do? We just go on anyway. Try to do the best you can. But even if you don't have the best kavanah, you keep on going. But really, strictly speaking, if you don't have kavanah for the first bracha, you're not Yotze Tefillah. So Rav Soloveitchik points out, since really we're not going to have kavanah anyway, so now I'm going to tell you to repeat another Shemona Esrei, another 19 brachas. He says better to rely on the Magen Avram. He says it lechatchila. He says the Magen Avram himself would say if you remembered right away, he'd say go daven over again and then daven Musaf. Rav Soloveitchik would say no, even if you remember right away, better not to get involved in all these extra brachas. Just wait to daven Musaf and then you're okay.
Couldn't you get the the credit for doing the YALEH-V-YAVO, even if you forgot it in the Shemona Esrei, by doing it during Birkat HaMazon?
No, that's too. I thought you were going to ask me a different question, but Birkat HaMazon, that has nothing to. That's a separate. But the two, it's part of the same thing. But there's a special mitzvah on Shabbos, Yom Tov, Rosh Chodesh. You have to mention it in the davening, and you have to mention it in the benching. So if I miss it in benching, I can't. You can't. They don't work. I thought you were going to ask me another question. Is what happens if, let's say, you're in shul? So there's Chazaras Hashatz. There's a Chazan repeats the Shemona Esrei. So let's say you forgot you're in shul, and you forgot YALEH-V-YAVO, and you're silent Shemona Esrei. So could you just listen to the Chazan's repetition? Is that good enough? So Tosfos points out from the Bahag, from the Hilchos Gedolos, he says you could do that. But the question is how? Because let me ask you something. If I just say I don't feel like davening tomorrow morning, you know what? I'll just listen to the Chazan. Could I do that? Let's say whatever, Shachar is Mincha, I'm not in the mood to daven. That's every morning. I'm not in the mood to daven, and therefore I want to listen to the Chazan. Does that work? Does it work for anybody? Could anyone today? Could you rely on? If you don't,
you used to be able to, right?
Well, it depends. So it depends if you're a Baki or ain't no Baki. In other words, could you read Hebrew or not? You know. So the halach is, if you know how to daven yourself, you can't rely on the Chazan. But if someone who doesn't know how to daven, so then you can. It could be the Gemara. Maybe if you're not even in, you might even count. Even if you're not in shul, but. So obviously, if the person davened, he knows how to read Hebrew. So how could Tosfos say that if I davened and left out YALEH-V-YAVO, I could rely on the Chazaras Hashatz of the Chazan? So we said the only person who could rely on the Chazan's repetition is someone who doesn't know how to daven. And by definition, if you daven and left, that means you do know how to daven. So clearly, Tosfos is working with what opinion? That clearly he's saying, you already fulfilled your mitzvah of mincha or shacharis. You're only repeating because of the chiyuv haskara, because of it. So that's enough. That you can rely on chazaras hashatz for. So that's what he's. So that's the question. How do we view a Shemona Esrei without YALEH-V-YAVO? Is it a nothing, or is it you fulfill your mitzvah, but you're just lacking in the special chiyuv haskara? That's why you have to repeat. What's the difference? Either way, I have to repeat. So the differences are. If you forget it tomorrow night, mincha, you daven and you left out YALEH-V-YAVO, would you have to repeat a second Shemona Esrei on Ma'ariv? That would be one difference. The difference is, could Musaf count if you forgot YALEH-V-YAVO and Shacharit and you daven Musaf? We passing it does work, but we're assuming then you already fulfilled your mitzvah of Tefillah already, that's why it works. Or could you rely on the Chazaras Hashatz? Could you rely on the cantor? So it depends. If it's like you didn't daven at all, no. And in fact, they say let's say what about the following question? Let's say mincha, you had an early mincha, you davened 2 o'clock, you went to an early mincha. Okay, fine, you went, and at 5 o'clock, you realize, wait a second, I left out YALEH-V-YAVO at mincha. And now there's a 5 o'clock mincha. Do you have to go to, assuming that you have to go to minyan to daven, assuming in the question that if you can go to minyan, you have to or you should. So should you go ahead now? You have to daven again. You left out YALEH-V-YAVO. If you want to fulfill your mitzvah of tefillah b'tzibur, do you have to go to the 5 o'clock minyan, or can I daven mincha at home? Okay, I went to the 2 o'clock mincha. I was in shul. I davened mincha, but I left out YALEH-V-YAVO, and now I'm home at 5 o'clock and 5:15 is mincha. I just realized that I have to daven over again to fulfill my mitzvah of tefillah b'tzibur. Do I have to go back to shul, or did I already fulfill my mitzvah? That depends on this question. If I fulfill my mitzvah of tefillah already, so I got tefillah b'tzibur, so that I could just daven at home. But if it's like I didn't daven at all, so if you didn't daven at all, you could have got tefillah b'tzibur. So then that'd be another practical difference between how we view. And this one other thing by benching. So benching, what happens? People are benching, and so the luck is, do you have to go back? So by Ma'ariv, you don't go back. You never go back. Ma'ariv Rosh Chodesh. Shacharis and Mincha, in theory, you do. But the only reason Shacharis you don't is because Musaf saves you. So let me just point out, not that it's ever going to happen, but something, let's say you didn't daven Shacharis today, and now they have to daven Mincha, and they have to daven 2 Shmona Esreis. So let's say, if I daven Mincha, let's say I didn't daven Musaf yet, so it's something to do with Shacharis. I'm assuming that you're going to daven Musaf right after, but let's say a person didn't daven Musaf yet, and they forgot YALEH-V-YAVO at Mincha, then Musaf would work also. If you daven Musaf right after, you would have to. So on the books you have to go back for both, but if you're going to daven Musaf right after, usually Shachar is either one, then you wouldn't have to go back. But usually Shachar is a Mincha, if not, then you would have to. So Mincha is the one I always assume you have to. So Mincha is the most important not to forget. Because Ma'ariv, you're okay. Shachar, you usually have Musaf. Mincha, you got to remember, or else you have to daven over again. Regarding benching, let's say you forgot you had a Suda today, and you left out YALEH-V-YAVO and Rosh Chodesh. What's the halacha? Do you have to go repeat benching or not?
I think no, right?
Are you covering yourself?
I think you don't.
You're saying, and why? Or you're not sure why? You're sure? No, you're not sure why?
There's no chiyuv to have bread on.
Right. So what's the halacha on Shabbos if you forget Ritzei? Do you have to go back or not? Let's say Friday night, Shabbos lunch, you'd bench and you left out Ritzei.
You go back.
Right. CHODESH is the only one you don't have to, because even though it's preferable to have bread, and you should have bread, but b'diavad, if you ate fruits or cake, you don't say, so therefore the halacha you don't go back. If you forget Ritzei at CHODESH, the bottom line is you don't go back, because of different opinions who say you don't have to have bread. So what about Yontif? You forget YALEH-V-YAVO on Yontif, what's the halacha?
I think you do go back.
Correct, you go back. So it's a simple rule of thumb. You just have to know you just have to know the facts. But the rule of thumb is, you have to ask yourself one question: Am I obligated to have bread today? If the answer is yes, then if you left out Ritzei or YALEH-V-YAVO, you have to go back. If the answer is no, you don't have to go back. So on Shabbos and Yontif, you have a chiyuv suda, so you have to go back. Rosh Chodesh, it's just praiseworthy. Hareza Meshubach, you should have a Suda, but you don't have to. There's no chiyuv. So therefore, if you forget YALEH-V-YAVO, you don't have to go back. So what happens the following Shiloh? Let's say Ritzei, Shabbos. Let's say it's Friday night, you all have the meal, and you all bench, and then you all forget Ritzei. Of course, you're probably benching out loud together, and you all forgot it. And now you all remember, wait a second, Ritzei. So you all have to repeat Shmonet benching. Do you have to do Zeman again?
No.
So it depends on the issue, like we discussed by davening. How do you view a Birkas Hamazon without YALEH-V-YAVO? Is it like I got credit for benching, except I have to bench over because the Chiyuv Haskara, or do I view it as a zero? Right, so as Sean Tisra of Salvation points out, the luck is you don't have to go back, because you're already Yotze benching, and the only reason you have to go back is because to be Yotze, so you have to repeat Shmoneh Esrei, but you don't need another Zeman. Okay, that's just some YALEH-V-YAVO with this little Makshava on Rosh Chodesh. Then, so we know in Judaism we follow the lunar calendar in contrast to the solar calendar. And the difference is solar calendar 365 days in a year and change, and a lunar calendar 354 days. So we lose 11 days every year. So I say tongue in cheek, but yeah, anyone can do a PhD. So I haven't done research on it, but anyone who has some free time so the Arabs, the Muslims, follow a lunar calendar. So I'm assuming then they should live longer than Americans or other people, because they get it. Because imagine 70 years, it's even longer. 11 times 70. So you're not living longer in actual days, but you're old. I should say you get older quicker. So I don't know if it's true or not, but it should be. So either way, so they follow So see, we don't. We have leap year, so we make it up anyway. So every 7 times every 19 years, we had 29 days. So we have 383 days. So therefore, we make them up. So there's the lunar. So they follow just lunar, and we follow, and the secular calendar follows solar. In fact, when I was watching the NBA playoffs many years ago, and Hakeem Olajuwon, I guess he was a born-again Muslim, they said he was fasting. And I'm wondering, I've been watching him in the playoffs for years, and I wasn't paying attention. I never remember anyone saying, and I don't remember him fasting like last year, 2 years ago. And I was thinking, oh yeah, now I know why, because it's a lunar calendar. So last year it came out in the winter, or it doesn't always come out during that May-June slot. So therefore, there are no seasons if you follow a lunar calendar. Because, of course there are seasons, but it doesn't do with your calendar. Like, basically Ramadan can and does come out any time of the year. Winter, spring, because if you go by a lunar calendar, it's not going to be in a season. So, in Judaism, we combine both the lunar and the solar. Why is it that we combine the lunar calendar and the solar? It could have been very easy. It would have been much simpler just following the solar, because we have to keep our seasons. That's why we have leap years. Pesach has to be in the spring, and Sukkot in the fall. In fact, that's why it's going to be next year. Pesach is very early this year. The end of March, and Rosh Hashanah is going to be the Wednesday night after Labor Day. The Labor Day, that's Monday night. And then the whole September you'll be missing school next year. But it's next year it's a Thursday, Friday. A lot of 3-day yontifs next year. For Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, you're lucky it's on Shabbos, so we're lucky in terms of missing class anyway. And then you have Sukkot are all, and Shemini Atzeret, so Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. So you're not going to have much time to learn Bereshis next year. Because you go straight from Simchas Torah to Bereshis. At least you ever have a couple of days. So they have. So we have both. So we combine both the lunar and the solar. So what's the significance of that? So the solar calendar, we know there's a song. Sunrise, sunset. So basically, no matter what, you know where it's going to be. Basically, you know where to look. At sunrise, you know where to look. Sunset, it's basically set in its ways. As opposed to the moon, we all have every month at Kiddush Ravana, like is it out? Is there a moon? Like where is it? I can't see. It's all over the place. So the sun represents stability. Everyone has to have some stability. You have to have a roof over your head. You need food on the table. You need some basics. Your basics in life. But as we all know, if you do the same thing every day, life gets boring. Whether it's the same food, same anything, even probably physical, spiritual, it's all. We always need change. We need new things, or else we get tired. We get bored of the things. So the sun represents stability. Everyone needs in life. You need fixed things, food, etc. And the moon, that represents change. It's constantly waxing bigger, smaller. It's all over the map. It's all over the place. And in fact, so it's good, and that's creativity and change. So it's good to do, it might be fun to go on a camping trip, or it might be nice to go on a bike ride. Not that anyone's crazy enough to go on a bike ride from here to New York, but I'm saying, let's say, it's nice to do that once in a while. At least you're getting a good workout. But obviously, or you want to go on a camping trip or whatever, but to do that, you just to, I guess all the people who just constantly take biking trips, though, so you need change in life, but you can't do those things only. You still you need a combination of both the solar and the lunar in your life. You need balance. And that's what, in fact, the Mishnah is interesting. Mishnah in Sukkah, the Mishnah tells us that it talks about halacha. You still have your sukkah up, or it's down, or you never had a sukkah?
It's down now.
Okay, so the Mishnah talks about the different foods that you have to eat in the sukkah. So the Mishnah tells us, achilas arai, if you're only eating naan, bread, mazonos, cakes, you don't have to eat them in the sukkah. If you're eating chips, drinks, whatever, You're not obligated to eat in the sukkah. However, it says it's praiseworthy. It's praiseworthy to eat everything in the sukkah, but you don't have to eat everything in the sukkah. So the Mishnah gives an example, it gives a story of different rabbis. I think one story is Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who were offered to eat, I don't know, making up the food, but chips and drinks, foods that they weren't obligated to eat in the sukkah, and they said, no, okay, I want you to bring it, I'm going to eat it in the sukkah. And then on the same Gemara Mishnah gives Rabbi Tarfon, who was also, he said, no, I'll eat it here. So what's the significance of this? Usually the stories always, bring out, clarify the point. What message is the Mishnah telling us, and what significance are these specific rabbis in the story? So if you notice the names of Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Tarfon, others, that they were prominent rabbis during the Churban Bayesheni. So these rabbis were involved in the Churban. So what's the link between the halacha of eating achilas arai, eating drinks and food outside the sukkah? What does that have to do with the Churban Habayis? So there's different explanations. So one explanation is as based on the Rambam. The Rambam writes in Shmona Prakim, in the introduction, he talks about the golden path, the Shvil Hazav. The golden path is the middle road. All extremes are bad. You always have to take the middle road. He gives an example. Let's say you have a reed that's bent all the way to the left, and you want to get it back to the middle. He says, what happens if you bend it back to the middle? Eventually it's going to start going back to the left. To get it back to the middle, you got to move it to the right. Don't bend it too much, you'll break it. And then eventually it'll go back to the middle. So if you have a sickness, then you have to go to the other extreme on occasion. But if you're normal, then you don't need extremes. You take the middle road. If you have it, like someone saying, you know what, someone has infection, so they have to take antibiotics. So a person says, you know what, this person was sick. They took antibiotics, and I see how good they're feeling. You know what, I'm feeling great. So imagine how good I'm going to feel if I take antibiotics. It's not the way it works. Antibiotics is filling a deficiency in your body, so the person who was sick needs it. If you're healthy, taking at best will do nothing. In fact, it might be a negative.